Hi, I'm Neil deGrasse Tyson. I'm an astrophysicist with the American Museum of Natural History, and I host Star Talk.
Let's start. UFO sightings. Here you go. You ready? Ready. All right. Someone says they saw a UFO. Remind them what the U stands for, okay? Unidentified. Because then they say, I saw a UFO. I said, oh, what did it look like? Oh, it was like a spaceship and it landed from another planet. And I said, you just said you didn't know what it was because you said it was unidentified. And so we have this urge, this irrational urge, which we all know, it's called argument from ignorance, where you don't know something and then you invent something. You go from not knowing anything to knowing everything about it, just by an invention of a comment or a thought. So what I found, when people claim they've seen a UFO, you just get them to describe it. And then you get them to the edge where they then want to say it's an alien. And then you simply tell them, you started out by saying you did not know what it was. End of conversation. You have no evidence to say that you know what it is. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If you want to get abducted, that's the fun part. So, they get abducted. Now they tell you that they were abducted. You tell them, I'm sorry, your eyewitness testimony is not worth anything to me. Because no matter what eyewitness testimony is in the court of law, it is the lowest form of evidence in the court of science. And so you need something better than that. So the next time, here's what you do. So you tell the person, here's what you do. You tell them, next time you're abducted, and they're doing the sex experiments, right? You're on the slab, because this is what aliens do when they abduct you, and they're poking your organs. This is what you do. Tell the aliens, hey, look over there, right? And quickly grab something off the shelf that's on the spaceship, an ashtray or something. It doesn't matter what, okay? Because I can tell you, no matter if they flew here from another galaxy, no matter what you pulled off the shelf, it'll be something unlike anything we have here on Earth. There is stuff we have among us that was unlike anything else on Earth 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, okay? I pull out my iPhone, there's nothing like, I would be burned at the stake 10 years ago for pulling this thing out, okay? And this came out of our own culture. So then you just tell them, just grab something off the shelf next time, and until that happens, please leave me alone, okay? There. Now, meanwhile, in the United States, the 21st century, you can buy this book, How to Defend Yourself Against Alien Abduction. This is a real book. I bought it, I read it, and I heeded its advice. I remain unabducted. There are things like, don't drive alone down a dark roadway. There's that kind. The book is all about what not to do. Actually, I think it would be kind of cool to be abducted by aliens, right? I mean, who in here would not want to? You all want to meet the aliens, right? If they're out there, of course. We're not anti-alien. We're just anti your account of the alien, that's all. Now, what pisses me off, inept aliens, okay? Here, you ready? So, here are aliens from another planet, another galaxy. They traverse interstellar space in their spacecraft. Trillions of miles. And they get to Earth and they crash. And I'm thinking, I don't want to meet these aliens. They can't land on Earth. Bring me somebody who knows how to navigate, okay? And then I'll have a conversation with those aliens. Until then, stay out of my face, okay? I don't like stupid aliens. Next. Oh, and you remember Close Encounters of the Third Kind? You know that movie, right? What was weird was, here's the mothership. We all saw the movie. If you haven't, go ahead. Who's the 15-year-old here? Have you seen that movie yet? Close Encounters of the Third Kind? Put it on Netflix, okay? All right. So the mothership comes, And they all knew the mothership was coming. They all knew it was a flying saucer. They all knew it came from another planet through the vacuum of space. And so what do? To the left of that monument, they set up runway lights. And I'm thinking, if you could travel through the vacuum of space, you don't need runway lights. Runway lights are like if you're using air for lift. Aliens would not need air for lift. So the people were not thinking this through. Those were inept producers.
Do I believe in UFOs or extraterrestrial visitors? I'm not authorized to answer that question. Where shall I begin? UFO. First, remember what the U stands for in UFO. Now, there's a fascinating frailty of the human mind that psychologists know all about, and it's called argument from ignorance. And this is how it goes. You ready? Somebody sees lights flashing in the sky. They've never seen it before. They don't understand what it is. They say, a UFO. The U stands for unidentified. So they say, I don't know what it is. It must be aliens from outer space visiting from another planet. Well, if you don't know what it is, that's where your conversation should stop. You don't then say, it must be anything. Okay? That's what argument from ignorance is. It's common. I'm not blaming anybody. Psychologists know all about it, and it may relate to our burning need to have to know stuff because we're uncomfortable steeped in ignorance. You can't be a scientist if you're uncomfortable with ignorance, because we live at the boundary between what is known and unknown in the universe. Unlike what journalists write. You ever see journalists? Any journalists here? You go to journalists. You go to journalists. All articles about science discoveries begin. Scientists now have to go back to the drawing board. As though we're sitting up in our office, you know, masters of the universe. It's like, oops, somebody discovered something. No, we're always at the drawing board. If you're not at the drawing board, you're not making discoveries. You're something else. So, the public, it appears, seems to have this burning need to have an answer to what is unknown. And so you go from an abject statement of ignorance to an abject statement of certainty. So, that is operating within us. Let's start there. Second, we know, not only from research in psychology, but simple empirical evidence in the history of science, that the lowest form of evidence that exists in this world is eyewitness testimony. Which is scary because that's some of the highest form of evidence in the court of law. But we know from second grade. Where's my guy from second grade? Yeah, get up to the microphone for a minute. Grab the microphone. Grab the microphone. In your classes, have you done the famous experiment where you play telephone and you line up all your kids in class and one person starts with a story and then you hear it and you repeat it to the next person and the next person? Have you done that in class yet?
Yes.
You've done that experiment? Because what happens by the time you get to the last person and they retell the story? What happens?
It's like completely different.
It's completely different. Completely different, okay? Because the conveyance of information was relying on eyewitness testimony, which in that case is ear witness testimony. And so, thank you. So we know that. So he knows it. He's in second grade. All right. So, actually he should be in 12th grade as we've established. So now, it wouldn't matter if you saw a flying saucer. In science, even if you have something less controversial than a flying saucer, if you come into my lab and you say, you got to believe me, I saw it, and you're one of my fellow scientists, I say, go home. Go back until you have some other kind of evidence that's not just you saw it. Okay? Because human perception system is rife with all ways of getting it wrong. Okay? But we don't like thinking of ourselves that way. We have high opinions of our human biology when in fact we should not. I'll give you an example of how it reveals itself. We've all bought and enjoyed books called optical illusions, right? Well, we all love optical illusions, but that's not what they should call the book. They should call them brain failures, okay? Because that's what it is. It is a complete failure of human perception, all right? All it takes is a few sketches that are cleverly done. Your brain can't figure it out, all right? So, we are poor data-taking devices. That's why we have such a thing as science, because we have machines that don't care what side of the bed they woke up in the morning, don't care what they said to their spouse that day, doesn't care whether they had their morning caffeine. They'll get the data right, okay? So, maybe you did see visitors from another part of the galaxy. I need more than your eyewitness testimony. And in modern times, I need more than your photograph, which Photoshop probably has a UFO button today. Like, stick it in, right? So, on your computer. So, here's what you do. I'm not saying we haven't been visited. I'm saying the evidence thus far brought forth does not satisfy the standards of evidence that any scientist would require for any other claim that you're going to walk into the lab with. So here's what I recommend. Here's what I recommend. Next time you're abducted, because I'm ready for this. I'm ready. Okay? I get abducted, I'm ready. Okay? So you're there, you're like on the slab, because they always do like the sex experiments on you, on the flying saucer. So there you are, and they're poking at you. Here's what you do. You ready? You tell the alien, you're going to be alien for this, right? So you're poking me, all right? So then I say,
finally, I'm on this side of the equation.
Okay, so I say, hey, look over there. And then he looks over there, you quickly like snatch something off the shelf, put it in a pocket, and then lay back. All right? Then you're done, you come back, you say, look what I got. Okay, I like stole the ashtray off the shelf of the flying saucer. And then you bring that to the lab. It's not about eyewitness testimony at that point, because you'll have something of alien manufacture. And anything you pull off of a flying saucer that crossed the galaxy is going to be interesting. Okay? Because even objects within our own culture. I got this device here, okay, the iPhone. 10 years ago, they would have resurrected the witch-burning laws had you pulled this thing out, okay? And that's in our own culture. Our own culture produced this over a 10-year span. So if there's some technology that crossed the galaxy, that's going to be some serious stuff to look at in the lab. Then we can have the conversation. Until then, I can't, I'm sorry. Go ahead, keep trying to find them. I'm not going to stop you. But get ready for that time you are abducted, because I'm going to be looking for your evidence when that happens. And last point on that is, there are people who look up all the time. Like, for example, the community of amateur astronomers in the world. I was an amateur astronomer. We look up, we come out of a building, we look up. Doesn't matter, we're looking up. UFO sightings are not higher among amateur astronomers than they are in the general public. In fact, they're lower. You say, well, why is that so? Well, because we know what the hell we're looking at. We know. Do you know? I don't. Because we study this stuff. Do you know there was a UFO sighting reported by a police officer, because we think that because you have a badge or you're a pilot or you're whatever, that your testimony is somehow better than that of an average person. It's all bad because we're human, okay? So there was a police officer who was tracking a UFO that was swaying back and forth in the sky, okay? Reported on the hot, they're in one of the, what do you call the car? The squad car, chasing a UFO, and the UFO's moving back and forth like this, okay? Later it turned out the cop car was chasing Venus, and he was driving on a curved road. But was so distracted by Venus, he thought Venus was the one moving, and he wasn't even thinking that he was doing this. So, I have seen things which, without my background in meteorology and astronomy and looking up, I would have reported to the police department. I would have. Like orographic clouds that form above huge mountains that are circular. And they're above a tall mountain, which means wherever you are, the sun can set for you before it has set for the cloud, darkening the skies, yet this cloud is now illuminated by sunset colors, which are what? Red, yellow, orange, and it's circular. There have been reports of hovering circular UFOs with light beams on them because people are looking at this cloud formation on top of mountains. So, maybe we have been visited by aliens. Maybe they've even landed. But why do they land in, like, the farmer's yard and not, like, Times Square, all right? And then I worry, like, maybe they had landed in Times Square, but nobody took notice. You know, because that's the really big problem there. And there's a huge answer to it, because there's a lot built into that. So, here's another concern I had. Oh, you said about movies earlier? Remember Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
Absolutely.
You remember that? And the aliens come in this big flying saucer?
Sure.
Okay? And what do? We turn on runway lights for it. I'm thinking, flying saucers don't need runway lights. They're flying saucers, for goodness sake. If you put a bullseye or something.
You did need them when we landed on the moon.
Don't put runway lights for this thing. Then, well, you go to Roswell and there's like crashed flying saucers. I'm thinking, if the alien came across the galaxy and couldn't land a damn spaceship, I don't want to meet the aliens. They're stupid aliens, all right? You think land on Earth, for goodness sake. Don't tell me you came across the galaxy, you can't land on Earth. Go home. Bring me somebody who can, then I'll have the conversation. Anyhow, so those are my opinions on the subject. Wait. Actually, I have one encore, if I may. Can I call it an encore? Okay, I have a thought that I find completely disturbing that I just want you all to have so that you will lose sleep tonight just as I do. Are you ready? This will be our parting thoughts together, okay? Humans tend to be unjustifiably hubristic about who and what we are in the animal kingdom and in the world. Just one example. We have these books that have optical illusions in them. Who doesn't love a good optical illusion? We all love optical illusions. The simpler, the better. Why do we call it optical illusions when it really should be called a book of brain failures? Because that's what it is. Oh my gosh, is it out of the diagram? I can't figure it. It's brain failures. We don't call it that, but that's what it is. Okay, we think very highly of ourselves. We call ourselves intelligent. By what measure? Oh, so we list things that we do that no other animals can do. So we say, oh, we have poetry and philosophy, and we have the Hubble telescope, and we compose symphonies. We're intelligent. That is our measure. All right. Well, I studied this briefly, and you ask, well, what is the next closest species to human beings? Basically the chimp. Okay? And how much DNA do we have in common? It's like 98% identical DNA. All right? But we are prone to say, oh, but what a difference that 2% makes. All the chimp can do, maybe it can stack boxes and reach a banana. Maybe. Maybe it can combine a few hand signals. Maybe. But look what we do. So we are convinced that whatever is in that 2% is significant. But I want to pose to you a disturbing thought. Maybe the difference in our cognitive capacity between us and chimps, we and chimps, maybe that difference is as small as that 2% suggests. Maybe the Hubble telescope and our greatest of operas and music and poetry is not much different from stacking boxes and reaching a banana. You say, Tyson, how could you say, what do you need, what, just look, look. Well, that's hubris. Because imagine
in whatever is this cognitive scale. Oh, by the way, the smartest chimps, the primatologists roll them forward, and they're doing what our toddlers do. Isn't that right? Our toddlers can stack boxes. Our toddlers can put up an umbrella. Our toddlers can make sign language. That's what our toddlers do. But those are smart chimps, studied by the primate experts. Imagine a species 2% beyond us in the same scale in which we are 2% beyond the chimp. How smart would they be to us? Well, let's just think about that. If they're as smart compared to us as we are to chimps, then to them there'll be no difference between stacking boxes and the Hubble Space Telescope, because they'd be capable of mental feats far beyond anything we could possibly conceive. Their humanitologists would roll Stephen Hawking forward and say, this one is slightly smarter than the rest because he can do astrophysics calculations in his head like little Junior over here does. Our greatest works of art and literature and science, their toddlers would have created in their kindergarten and would be on their refrigerator with magnets. Oh, look, little Junior just derived all of quantum mechanics. Isn't that cute? Put that on the freezer door. Oh, this is your 20th sonata. Oh, that is so cute. We call ourselves smart. You don't know if you're smart or not until you have another species blow you out of the water. And what I'm about to tweet this evening, because it disturbs me, I got to get it off my chest. There's a worm in the street. You walk by it. Does the worm know that you think you're smart? The worm has no concept of your smarts, because you're that much smarter than the worm. So a worm has no idea that something smart is walking by it, which makes me wonder whether we'd have any concept if a super species walked by us. Maybe they're uninterested in us because we're too stupid for them to even imagine having a conversation. You don't walk by a worm and say, gee, I wonder what the worm is thinking. It's just not a thought that you have. So one of the best pieces of evidence for why we haven't been visited by aliens is that they have actually observed us and concluded there is no sign of intelligent life on Earth. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Has driven humans to search for a way out. For centuries, religions have provided one. At the heart of religions, practically all the world's religions, there is the offer of eternal life, time without end. This is Wells Cathedral in Somerset. For the past 800 years, every Christian who's walked in here has been reminded that their soul is immortal.
So I imagine that the promise of eternal life was a powerful incentive for the people who worshipped here.
From their Bible, they knew that God controlled time. They read that Adam had reached over 900 years of age, and